Okay, I think we're live now. And I'm here with Dr. Kevin McCairn, and we've got 4 patients here, plus the doctor's a patient as well. Oh, wait, we just lost. Who did we just lose? We just lost Charles, but
Just lost Charles.
okay. So, Kevin, why don't you give us an update and then everybody can pitch in.
So since we last spoke, I mean, I think we've doubled the patient number at least. I want to say Ken was 14. Yeah, we're getting closer to 40 patients now.
40
And
patients.
yeah, and the consistent trajectory is that there is significant improvement in, I would say, everyone. We can get into the nitty-gritty details of where we've seen, I would say, a blunting of therapeutic response, and we may have a reason as to why. And I'm so worried about predatory academics and whatnot. I'm worried about saying exactly what that reason is right now. But let's put it this way: that we're finding a very obvious, I would say anatomical. Let's say anatomical failure mode in these patients. Now, why would that be? We're not entirely sure, but if it's related to the condition and extended neuroinflammation, then potentially we're looking at a new add-on to the ever-expanding list of sequelae from spike protein, I guess. And
Okay.
no, so other than that, it's been good, and we've got Arthur here as a new patient. 31, yes, he's patient 31.
Okay.
So we're
Real
well
quick,
above.
real quick, if y'all are watching this on X, if you could repost and share, we're competing with InfoWars and that stupid war in the Middle East, and this is much more important than that war. We're getting an important update from sort of our most promising treatment that we have seen so far for the patients who are severely injured from these shots. And yeah, I have seen hundreds of patients now, and I, basically all that I can offer is ivermectin, and it tends to help. But in the patients that are really severe, I haven't found anything else. I haven't found any of the supplements, and I would like everybody to talk about what they had tried prior to this, just to back me up on that. So
we'll be here all day.
Yeah. And it sounds so. Kevin was just saying that now they've treated 40 patients so far. And what they're doing is called dual filtration plasmapheresis. It's a special filtration system. The type of filter that's being used is not available in the United States, at least to civilians. It is available, from what I understand, to the military. Is that right, Kevin? The military
it's not exactly, it's not the same brand, but the principal therapy is the same. And this is where you butt up against the, I don't know, the interests of the public versus the privileged position that the military industrial complex has ensconced itself in the US, I guess. And well, I'll defer to Charles and his 1 degree of separation from Smedley Butler to go into that particular what do you call it, like a bramble bush of competing interests. But yeah, if you're a civilian, you're shit out. I can't swear on your. I think it's my podcast, Mary. I'm sorry.
You can swear.
yeah, you're just completely out of luck, is what I was gonna say. But
so
I'm trying to go on. I'm just trying to repost you. Don't need me talking.
Yeah. So they're doing this filtration process, and then doing intravenous stem cell growth factors that are coming from the pulp of baby teeth. So I think what everybody wants to know is, how effective is this? Are you seeing long-term success? I'd like to know maybe how long is your, when did you first start this? So in terms of outcomes, at what stage are we right now? Do you think this is a lasting treatment, or is this something that people are going to have to do over and over again? I think people want to know how expensive it is. I think people want to know, will we ever get this to the United States? Why are we using these stem cell growth factors from baby teeth? Where did that come from? And is that a huge component of making this successful? And then I will be monitoring the chat and trying to find other questions as they come in. But Kevin, you want to start, and then we can pass the baton to everybody one by one.
Sure. So in terms of our first patient, it's a year now since we treated that individual, and he's doing well, and he contacted me because he has friends now that would like to participate. Now, in terms of illness, the state of his, he wasn't bad per se, but the blood markers were, and his blood markers have remained clean, I would say. Now, in terms of longevity of response, I think perhaps what a better way to look at this is, how does the treatment impact what's essentially intractable conditions currently in particularly those dealing with it in the West, Europe, etc. And the simple fact is that we're not only having a significant impact on like the neurological component of SARS, or vaccine injury. Generally I find, just for brevity, I think just of spike toxicity, spikeopathy is probably a better way to discuss this, because actually what we find is that a lot of the patients have, even though an initiating effect might have been vaccines, they do have COVID infections as well. And we also, as with any medical population, you're going to have comorbidities as well that come with that, with those patients. And so it's not just a case of simply treating the spikeopathy in this instance. So first patient is out to a year. We can look later on at some of the images we have accrued, just of the what were, or what's considered untreatable, or just their conditions that can only be managed in some instances, or perhaps in Ken and Arthur's case, may have been a bit more close to catastrophic outcomes. And when I say catastrophic, I mean you're not coming back from them. And so I think it's important to sort of look at their data as well. And perhaps I'll just finish with this, which is, as a sort of operational framework right now, we tend to classify people primarily neuro-COVID, cardiovascular COVID, GI tract, and then they might sort of blend into one another, with one dominant versus the other symptom type. And it's the same treatment for all. And you asked about the stem cells in this instance. Well, one is the ethical, or they don't have the ethical quandary that comes with fetal stem cells, cord blood, etc., that type of thing. They are they're just from, as kids lose their teeth, the stem cells from there can be harvested. And in this instance, the what we call they're from neuroblast stem cells. So in terms of embryological development, so the neuroblast layer is what's responsible for development of the brain and the sort of above the neck, basically. And they seem to be especially potent with respect to their anti-inflammatory and regenerative effects relative to other stem cell types. And it's that sequencing of filtration, stem cells, and the timing of it and the volume of stem cells given, which I think is the critical factor. It's highly synergistic. And yeah, actually, if I'll just finish this one little anecdote. I was not last week, the week before, I was just talking with Dr. Cato, who runs the program there, and as we were just sort of sitting and looking and discussing patients, I just sort of said, did you think it would be so effective, so synergistically effective in what we see in the patients? And his straight up answer was, no, I wasn't expecting that. And it's you can see the change in people. You know, I see patients like once a week, and I have like a gap. So I see from one day there's a pause, and then if you see people every day, you kind of just make adjustments. When you have a week gap, you definitely see these rejuvenating, I guess, effects. So yeah, I'll hand off there.
Now, the before and after photos of these patients is unreal, including myself, and obviously probably all of us. I agree with Kevin. The combination of the pre-growth stem cells and the filtration, it's got to be way more effective than anything else out there in the whole world, especially for those of us that had the autoimmune. Just knowing that those filters would take away the autoantibodies and the misfolding proteins that were caused by the autoimmune system attacking my body was enough for me to know that that was the choice I had to stay alive. And when you look at cases like Lindsay, oh my God, I mean, her neuropathy went away. Like we were walking after the first session, and she's like, oh my God, my heart rate is blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, I realized how incredible the synergistic effect of both of those. And so sometimes patients are like, well, I want to save money and I don't want the SGF. And I'm like, I don't know about that, because they kind of work together.
Can you tell everybody sort of your story, Ken?
Well, my story is really long and drawn out. I'm damaged from head to toe and everything but my arteries that run down my legs and my toenails and my fingernails. And I think I'm transcribing. I think that the DNA got in all of my cells and it's there. And I think my body is continuing to produce spike proteins. It's a little early to tell. I got back from treatment and felt a lot better. You know, I kind of hit that sweet spot. I got home. My neck was healing from the last filtration. I got a few days sleep, got back on a normal schedule, and my whole world just turned around, and I just was smiling from ear to ear. And of course, now I'm home and the baby's crying and my wife is griping at me and things are back to normal. But literally from night and day, as you know, we've talked about this before, I went to stay alive and I didn't know if I was going to make it home. As a matter of fact, I wrote some things for my funeral and took off my jewelry and gave it to my wife and said goodbye. And I didn't know. And I came home and here I am. I'm still battling some heart issues and I still have limbic encephalitis in my brain. But I look at me, I'm smiling and I'm laughing, and I couldn't do that for so long. I went from trying to survive to able to function and live. And certainly I'm dealing with stuff, but I feel good. As long as I don't, have cardiac arrest or get ALS, I'm going to live for a while. So I'm very happy.
What did you try prior to this?
Mary, that is a rabbit hole, especially with us, because not only have we tried, I mean, there's probably 25 or 30 things I've tried. When you were treating me early on in the game and I got the small fiber neuropathy, I sat down with you and you were like, well, what are you taking? What are you taking? Well, I went home. I was frustrated. So I stopped everything. And then about a week and a half later, I couldn't get out of bed. I was so sick. And I called you and you said, double up on that ivermectin and get back on that, whatever you were taking. And I got back on that on the 7th day. I got up and I was functioning. What I was taking was the nattokinase, the bromelain, and the curcumin. Now, I got frustrated and got off of it because it wasn't doing anything. But at this point in my life, I'm not willing to risk that. So I got back on it. I have some pancreas damage and some liver damage now because I've been taking all this medicine for 5.5 years. And talking to all the patients in the patient group that are going into treatment, there are hundreds, if not way more things than people are taking. And everybody's got different symptoms and everybody's got a different thing that works for them. They've all trial and error. It's amazing. There are hundreds and hundreds of things that everybody's taken. I know that the ivermectin saved my life twice. I know that I've told other patients to take it and they've been able to travel and gotten a lot better. As far as what else works, I couldn't really say. I know Lindsay has a lot of information on that, but really those supplements, they're kind of like our injuries. You know, one guy has this injury, a supplement works for that. Somebody else has these 2 injuries, a different supplement works for those. But I don't think there's one fix for everything. I'm sure Lindsay can add to that.
Yeah, Lindsay, you want to go next and give everybody an update?
So as far as treatments that I haven't tried would be the better thing, because I pretty much, like Ken said, we tried every supplement and medication, even the off-label experimental drugs such as Maraviroc, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine. All of those seem to work. The low-dose naltrexone definitely helped. I saw with the brain inflammation. The thing that helped me the most was actually steroids. It got me from being completely couch and bed bound. You know, Dr. Corey started me on low dose and we did it for a couple of weeks. But the thing with that is the longer you go, the more.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, did we lose Lindsay?
Lindsay's frozen.
Your body's
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Lindsay, are you in Japan? Is she in Japan?
Yeah.
I'm not at liberty to say.
Oh, that's right.
Hang on.
Okay, Lindsay, we're gonna pause you. Okay, all right. We didn't get any of that.
Okay.
Well, actually, what I can say is,
Oh, shoot.
with respect to steroids, we've had a number of patients who have had. Well, steroids obviously help because they just dampen down the immune response, and then they've been on them for some extended period, and then they just seem to get
Crash.
Yeah, it's like just way worse than what they almost describe as worse than the initial conditions with which they went to get help, and it's they're a double-edged sword, and I would encourage people to be very judicious in their use.
Yeah, definitely, because you can. It's a finite treatment, but you cannot do those long term and have a good quality of life.
No. Sure
So,
can.
Lindsay, how long ago did you finish treatment?
So I finished at the beginning of May. So about a month or so I've been off. I'm still probably about 85 to 90% better. Am I still frozen?
No, we can hear you now.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, good. Okay. So I'm still having some pot symptoms that I'm trying to manage, usually just when I'm going up an incline or up steps, or if I'm doing heavy fast walking. Other than that, when I stand up, my heart rate is in the low 90s, low 100s. It's not in the 120s to 150s. I have not had any palpitations since. I haven't had any dizzy spells or fainting spells either. So I'm more mobile. I'm able to do my morning and evening walks. So I've been posting about that. And I actually have been on the bike at the gym and on the treadmill if I can. And then also getting vitamin D by the pool. That's something that I couldn't even go outside before, because when I would go out in the sun, I'd have these rashes and these like sores pop on me, kind of like the lupus patients did. So I'd have this autoimmune reaction to the sun and the environment outside. Another thing that I haven't completely gotten all the way a hold of is my MCAS symptoms. So when I got home, I had a bout with the pollen that had come about, and we didn't have that in Japan when I left. So when I got back,
Oh shoot!
No, man.
home,
Right.
other than that, I can cook, I can clean, I can shower, back to normal daily activities of living that we take for granted. So I'm still chugging along, and Kevin, like he said earlier, and Ken, I was one of the ones that you could tell physically, like my face, you could see I was getting blood flow back to my cheeks, my hands and my fingers were getting blood flow, and I could feel them again where they've been blocked for so long. My wrinkles, just everything is just a night and day difference. And like he said, seeing the patients from 1 week, having a little break, and then seeing them, you can tell a whole world of difference just by in that short amount of time. So it's working, definitely.
I can tell by the way you're talking. Actually, you sound.
That's another
more...
thing. My speech is more clear. I don't get tongue twisted. I don't have the word finding. Like my brain fog is completely gone, and my speech is stronger, that they've said. So.
Yeah.
Charles has really turned around on his speech.
Hold on. Lindsay, how many treatments did you do?
So I did 3 filtrations and 15 of the stem cell growth factor infusions. I really felt the difference after the second.
After a second. And was it painful or scary, or how was the treatment?
It was the unknown of not what to expect. I mean, you have this large bore needle going into your jugular vein. When Kevin was explaining, that's the best spot because it fills brain first. So you get all the aids. And that's why one of the brain fog symptoms is one of the first ones that lift, because your brain is getting oxygen to those places that was clogged up. But just the unknown of what not to expect, of course, being in a foreign country, but having us there and having the correct people at the bedside, like their care is next to none. They will come up to you and make sure that your needs are met. And they're really good about doing that. But just, it kind of didn't hurt. The pressure was the worst part when they were putting the wire down. But other than that, no pain. It was just sore afterwards.
Right. Arthur, I haven't met you. Welcome, and I'd love to hear your story.
Yeah. If I start from the beginning and try to make it, relatively quick. I mean, I'm in Canada, by the way. I'm not in the U.S., so my experience has been a little different. The lockdowns were a little insane where I live. And, before this all started, I know I had COVID, didn't do much to me. And pretty much after the first COVID vaccine, within 24 hours, I started having some pretty serious symptoms. Kind of slowly, my body started to act up, let's just say. Within a few days, I had trouble going for walks. I had trouble understanding my work. I had really serious neurological issues. Just, serious migraines, really tired. I'd spend my days in bed when, I was pretty, exercising quite a bit. I had a young dog. I know I was getting back in the gym. I was playing hockey whenever I can. And, all of a sudden I kind of had to put a hold on all that. My case might differ a little bit because I was recovering quite a bit. And after a year, I was a lot better. But I got sick again. And when I did, I developed all kinds of new symptoms. I started having really serious respiratory problems, really bad post-exertional malaise, which kind of, gradually got worse with time, chest pains, spasms that started about a year ago. And in terms of the treatments that helped me, in my case, Canadian medical system was pretty useless. Doctors, were pretending that I just have anxiety and that, just some kind of magical case of coincidence when I'm having to call an ambulance because I'm spending 20 hours straight suffocating. And, I couldn't even get oxygen in the ER. They'd like pretty much make fun of me and just tell me to breathe normally. And reaching out to some doctors in the US, first spoke to Dr. Bean. He referred me to Pierre Corey's clinic. And when he started me off on ivermectin, low-dose naltrexone, I had like a massive recovery within a few weeks. I was back to playing hockey, back in the gym, no issues at walks, functioning at work again. But then, slowly, I started deteriorating again. The year after, I started triple therapy, and that had a pretty profound effect as well within a few weeks. But I just kept getting worse. And pretty much, outside of just taking my dog for a few short walks a day, I was just in bed all day, and most of the time I struggled to breathe pretty much. Any kind of exercise would put me in a state that I couldn't breathe, my brain couldn't function, really bad migraines. And HBOT as well is something that helped me out quite a bit. I went from feeling like I was going to have a heart attack every day. And
HBOT, did you say HBOT?
Yeah, hyperbaric oxygen therapy. I did about 50, 60 sessions. And, on top of that, I tried some other stuff. I dabbled with peptides and whatnot before going to Japan. I didn't see too much in terms of improvements. And, the problem is my health just kept getting worse. I was slowing it down. The meds I was on was kind of alleviating things, but, it was clearly things kept getting worse. I know one thing that Kevin might bring up is like my x-rays. I did a bunch of imaging on my chest in the last 5 years. Supposedly it was always clean. I think the last time I did anything was about a year ago, like a CT scan, x-rays, they were clean, but the Japan x-ray was pretty bad. So I don't know if it's something that happened recently and it just progressively got worse very quickly. But I didn't have initially I didn't have any kind of myocarditis or pericarditis. It was simply like long COVID symptoms triggered by the vaccine.
We can have a look at his x-rays if you like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just
Ken's got an impressive x-ray too.
Yeah, we have Ken's as well to look at. But between them, I actually think Arthur is tipping the lead in this one.
Maybe also might be downplaying a little bit, but I had trouble. A 10-minute walk can finish me off for the whole day. I before going to Japan, I was pretty much moving between my bed and my couch, and I didn't have too much hope. Let's just say I was probably in a similar situation as Ken is. I kind of accepted my fate, and I thought it was done for.
Glad you made it, Arthur.
And meanwhile, the doctors in Canada most recently said that I have asthma all of a sudden.
Oh, wow.
So, even though the test that's based on that's literally impossible, and I've never had asthma in my life. It's they gave me a pump and he told me to go away.
Do they know that you had this treatment?
They don't care. I have nobody call. I've seen I've seen well over 100 doctors here. I'm maybe close to 150, and no one really cares. It's just it's too complicated, and they just want you to go away. And your family doctor is supposed to coordinate your care, but my family doctor didn't care. And I was hospitalized by the first dose. I was forced to get a second one because they refused to report it. They refused to give you exemptions.
Wow.
They're still gaslighting me to this day that I have magical anxiety and magical asthma, and I went from pretty much being at the same level as an athlete in terms of physical abilities to barely being able to go around the block some days.
Yeah. I'll try and bring Arthur's. Oh, this isn't Zoom, right?
Mary,
hang on, I got to figure out how
that's
to.
one thing that we're seeing too is the majority of us that were severe and survived were athletes, and I think that plays into part while we are still here is because of that.
Definitely. There's one thing that a lot of these patients have in common. Of course, it's vascular, but in people's x-rays and MRIs of their lungs, everybody's got this condition, including myself, called articulosis or scoliosis. I can't remember, but it's something like that. And normally that's found in nursing home patients and people over 85 years old. And the doctors have missed it for everybody. And it's frustrating that a doctor can't look at that and see it. I guess it's from the blood clots pooling in the bottom of the lung, and then part of the lung folds over. But I don't know how you could see that in a 50-year-old rugby player and think that he would have the same thing as a nursing home patient. It's just ridiculous how these doctors miss this stuff.
Did that share? Oh,
Yes.
there you go.
You can see it.
So that's Arthur's chest X-ray.
Ooh,
Nice.
I think
yeah.
that's one
Wow.
and two, and then there's a third one as well that's even better.
Yeah, I'm sort of I've got so many frying up, and the problem I have right now is I'm kind of squishing them to fit onto the. Hang on, let me just see if I can do this. Here's the third one. If I just do this, no, won't let me. Oh no, do this.
If y'all are watching on X,
I do just
please
want-
share it so that other people can see it. And like I said, we're competing with the stupid war that they're covering on the Alex Jones show, which no one really would. So share this if you can.
Yeah. I was going to say, I won't get into politics, or I'll start ranting, as I usually do. But that's the third one overlaid.
Wow.
There.
That's amazing.
Even the non-medical people can see
yeah.
the difference.
Yeah. Well, that just tells you how much
I-
pain he was in. I mean, that's
I actually just saw another one yesterday. Not to interject, but sitting in the hospital, we have a current patient, and just seeing from the first week to the second week, there's a dramatic decline. It looks almost exactly like this.
Yeah,
Is that Charles talking?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we haven't
Yes.
heard from
Yes,
Charles
that is
yet. Do you want to tell everybody your story?
Well, yeah, I guess this is kind of my first time being here in your podcast, obviously, but we know each other. But just in case your audience members don't, I was heavily involved in COVID origin-related stuff. So all the congressional investigations, the OG&I. A friend of mine, the CIA whistleblower, just testified recently. But I've also, through that, I met Kevin 5 years ago. We became really good friends. In 2024, I helped him set up his lab. And then I think I was the first person whose blood he tested once he started testing blood. And my blood was so bad, the microclots were so bad that he used those as the example to ask for samples from everyone else. And then I went back to the United States. I had confirmatory results from Dr. Vaughn's lab. And so I was heavily involved in pandemic-related things already. But in December of 2023, I fell off the cliff symptomatically. And then I was bedridden for 6 months. I was in the ER hospital 18 times in that first 6 months. Presenting with many of the similar symptoms that I now see in our patients. And I came back here in November of 2025, and patient number 2, our first, I guess, official patient who went through what we now consider the baseline protocol, Tamra, I was there for that, and I ended up becoming the patient coordinator. So now I've been blessed because I've been here in Tokyo while Kevin is in the lab doing all the blood testing. I've been here ever since patient 2 up until the time I had to go back and wait for my work visa just a month ago. But what that means is that I've been able to be here each and every day with every single patient for the first 30 patients. And then I've also been a patient myself. I went through 2 weeks of treatment kind of concurrently with Lindsay when she was going through hers. And I can talk about my significant symptomatic improvement later, but just to kind of finish my introduction, I've now shifted from unofficially coordinating this to, as of next week, I will officially be an employee of Edogawa Hospital,
Right.
Working as the coordinator for this treatment as it's expanded. And initially, they were only able to do 4 patients at a time. And they did some capital investments, some renovation of an old chemotherapy ward. And because of that, we can now treat up to 18 patients per week. And the limit is based off of the number of filtrations that we can do per day. And pretty soon, that will expand to 27. So basically, what's happened is we're seeing an exponential growth of patient numbers. And the good thing for us is that we're continuing to see positive results from most of those patients. Now, people are getting different levels of symptomatic improvement. Not everyone is as dramatic as Ken or as Arthur or as Lindsay or as myself. We happen to be pretty good advertisements for this. But it has expanded rapidly, and for me, it's been an incredible blessing to be there with the patients and watch, because Kevin, he's there once a week. I've been there every day, and so I'm able to get to know each patient, talk to them, learn their backstory, and just to give you an idea of how the program has expanded. And when we first did this, when Kevin first appeared at the end of December, and we were trying to raise money for Lindsay to come here, we'd only had 2 patients, and we had 4 more that were there at the moment. Now, as of today, we've had patients 41 through 46 are now here, and we have 35 more already scheduled through the end of the year. And by the time the end of the year happens, I expect the overall number of patients to double from what it currently is now. So even though we technically have about 80 scheduled, just the way that even if the pace of it cuts in half, we would still probably have about 150 patients by the end of the year. So we're starting to get a very large sample size, and once again, I've kind of by default, I ended up being the intermediary between the patients and Kevin and the hospital, and it's just been an incredible blessing to watch. And so it's really cool to see that even while I was gone, we're continuing to see patients come in, patients improve, and patients leave. Every patient is different, but once again, the trajectory of this treatment and the success of the treatment and what I've been able to witness with my own eyes has been, it's just been a blessing. That's really all I can say.
I'd just like to add this. I've worked in clinical neurosciences for 30 years, and I've been at meetings where they're discussing therapies and you're having investment discussions and trying to raise capital, and the degree of change that we're seeing, the only thing that I can compare it to, in my experience, is the introduction of deep brain stimulation into the treatment of Parkinson's disease. And basically that happened as I was sort of doing my PhD, been discovered quite serendipitously in France, and then they began the process of trying to get build out a protocol, but the change to patients was quite dramatic, and it's now become the gold standard treatment, as opposed to what was essentially irreversible lesion study. Now, the response to therapy isn't as instantaneous as deep brain stimulation, but we do see effects within hours, often with lifting of brain fog. But even with deep brain stimulation, there is still a range of responses, but it's still considered the best therapy around currently. And so as a experimental therapy at the moment, which this still is, this ticks all the boxes for being able to satisfy clinically significant improvement. And generally they class that as having improvement 6 months to a year out. And generally, if you take metrics from cancer patients, if you reach 5 years, they'll say your condition is in remission. But in neurodegenerative conditions like Parkinson's, that's not a metric that they're looking for. But are you improved 6 months to a year out? And we're already ticking those boxes. And the rapidity of change, the underlying hypothetical frameworks that we're using all satisfy the validity and construct criteria that that medicine would demand of any new therapy that was to be introduced to the public. Now the question is, is that gold standard going to come to the United States? In this, I'm not so. I'm hopeful in the therapy we have. I'm not so hopeful that the United States will be leading the way on this one. But maybe the evidence becomes overwhelming after. How long did it take from? It took a good 10-15 years for deep brain.
How did Japan get to be the forefront? And has the Japanese government been involved in this at all?
No. So even if you're Japanese, you would have to pay for this treatment because it's off-label. Mm-hmm. And but the treatment itself has been developed in Japan and is decades old. The secret sauce in this instance is just the combination of therapies being put together, and I think the timing and route that we're doing, because people and so this is a good point to go back on, right? So there was as COVID was sort of raging, they were looking at therapies, and they did do a study into plasma exchange, plasmapheresis. And what they did is they mixed up therapeutic plasma exchange with dual filtration apheresis. And in the United States, they didn't really have the infrastructure to be doing DFPA. Now, I want to say that they were trying to get the therapy that DARPA had been working on, which you can get if you're battlefield injured in Ukraine, you can get it. But right now, you don't have the infrastructure, and the data set's been polluted by the mixing in of therapeutic plasma exchange, and that's unfortunate because people will turn to that study just read the title and reject what the findings that we're seeing. And also, just to add as well, there's a critical feature about what we do, which is the route of filtration. And so the way to imagine it, right? So basically the canister that you're filtering against is probably not much larger than this plastic cup here, right? And places that do dual filtration apheresis, they're basically picking a peripheral vein, usually in the arm, and then trying to filter the bulk of the plasma that's coming through that peripheral vein, right? And so that essentially that's the whole of the body's plasma, instead of the return blood and plasma flow from the brain, which is what we're doing. And I think that's been one of the critical differences, particularly with autoantibodies that sort of accompany long COVID. And with, in fact, I've just been sent a new canister which is available, which we might look to deploy. But yeah, will the data support us? Yes, I think so. But will it evolve rapidly into treatment in the US? Unfortunately, I think not.
Can you talk about amyloid?
Sure. So the primary, or so like one of the diagnostics we use is, are there aggregates that are thioflavin responsive in the plasma and blood? You can look to the work of Pistorius and Kell in COVID, and they point to fibrin as being the problematic protein in this instance, and it going into a amyloid configuration. If you wanted to get into the weeds of, is it really a amyloid or amyloidogenic protein in the sense of Creutzfeldt or synucleopathies? I'm not sure that's entirely been demonstrated in the work in my lab where we've looked at it. Seeding reactions happen, but it happens in the context of plasma. And so plasma is just a complex collection of proteins, and that amplification might just be a consequence of like it goes into a clotting cascade, but the clotting is abnormal and doesn't break down in the normal sense. And so that's how I sort of view it at the moment. And yes, getting rid of those and just cleaning the blood out of immune aggregates and amyloidogenic fibrin makes sense from a first principles approach. But that's only half the battle. I think the important part as well is the exposure to the stem cell growth factors, and that's another complex medium that's being put into the body. And so here's one of the issues that makes transfer to the US difficult. So stem cell growth factors in and of itself has a vast array of signaling molecules and peptides and that are associated with it. And to deploy that in the United States is very difficult, because what they say is, oh, we want something that's more purified, like a biologic in this instance. And I'm not convinced of the fact that you can just take one aspect of this very complex repertoire of proteins from these stem cells and say that it's that one there and put an X on it as the therapeutic initiator in this state, and so that acts as a problem in translating to other countries, whereas in Japan they've sort of worked out how they'll use it as a therapeutic, as a biologic, in the understanding that it does have this this complex array of peptides that come with it. And the best way to just sort of think about it is, you can take it, it's a more natural product, I guess, in Japan. And then if you take it and try to refine it, as we're often inclined to do in science, you may lose some of the just I don't want to give too much away, and I also don't want to sort of put people off about what we do and don't understand in this instance. But just the demand to say that we're going to take that and synthetically make it, right? Because I think that's what they'd be looking to do, much like they made the mRNA vaccines, right? They'll stick that protein into a plasmid cassette and then have bacteria make it. And in this instance, it's the product of a child's tooth falling out and that neuroblast stem cell population just being responsible for the robustness of response. And I would also add probably the gentleness, if that's the right way to think about it. But the effect is sort of it's not a shock to the body to get these high doses of stem cell growth factors. It's taken on board quite naturally.
Well, I was going to ask Lindsay or anybody, did you have side effects from the stem cells going in, or did you feel better, or could you tell any difference right away?
I didn't have side effects. I could tell though, once infused, like I started getting these tingles all over my brain and in my fingers where the oxygen was getting to. I did have where my vein infiltrated in my arm since they were sticking it so many times, and I did have some extravasate into my elbow, but like he said, it's natural and it just absorbed it right up, and I didn't have any pain. I didn't have anything like that. I haven't seen anyone, maybe Kevin can speak to this, or Charles, that had any reactions while we were there. If so, it was maybe a mild like flushing reaction, but I haven't seen any yet this far.
It gave me a good buzz. It lifted me up. I was real talkative and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But Charles, you've been there, right? Have you seen a reaction?
I've seen reactions to compounds like citrate that were used, but not. Sometimes the response is different for different people. So sometimes I would be energized, but what I had previously taken, like once a month, I've been doing these smaller SGF injections. I did notice that when I did take large amounts of it, there were periods where I personally was more tired. But in terms of adverse events, no. We do have a couple of patients who've tried different stem cell therapies who've had negative reactions to those, and one of whom hasn't been treated here yet, but who's coming, and then two others who had tried other things, and thus far, from my recollection, we've had no major reactions. And it's basically what Kevin said. Instead of being the actual stem cells themselves, these are the chemical signaling, these are the exosomes, these are the different constituent parts, over 100 different ones. So it's acting as I don't know, like an energy drink for your stem cells, the way I can put it. Instead of putting external stem cells into your body and hoping that some of them don't get rejected, we don't see the same inflammatory reactions. We don't see the same cancer triggering, because there have been patients who've been worried about cancer because this is related to stem cells and there is a risk of that. But here, this SGF has been used for decades in one of the hospitals here at Edagawa Hospital. One of the buildings is a cancer center, and they've been using it. They've been using SGF as adjunct therapies for different cancer patients as well. So they use it for a whole panoply of different, everything from erectile dysfunction to just pretty much many different indications, and they've done so for a very long time with many thousands of patients. And we could talk to
orders of
the inventor, but yes,
yeah,
but orders of magnitude safer
than any pharmaceutical product, I would wager. And again, that's likely just because of the natural origin of the stem cell products in this instance.
Yeah. You're not using someone else's. It's signaling your bone marrow to create your own stem cells. And it continues to work days to months post your infusion. So it's still working in me and Charles and Arthur and everybody here post infusion. And another thing that Kevin educated me on was stem cell growth factors inhibit the spike from inducing the amyloids, and the amyloids from aggregating to tissue and vessels going forward as well. So it's kind of like a preventative for future states.
And that was the main reason that we initially did it. The SGF is used for regenerative medicine. And so it can help heal damaged neurons because it stimulates your stem cells of different types throughout your body to produce new cells in cells that can divide. The spike protein artificially ages you at the cellular level and at the epigenetic level. And these SGF, without getting more specific, it kind of works to heal some of that damage that's been caused. You can't fully undo what's been done, but basically we're taking out the inflammatory microclots and we're putting in anti-inflammatory SGF that is not only going to normalize cytokines, as has been shown in peer-reviewed research by the inventor of SGF, who happens to be associated with the hospital, and he's the one who produces it. But those are just ancillary benefits. Kevin, when he made the discovery about how the SGF works to inhibit the amyloid cascade from forming, he wasn't thinking about the regenerative aspect of it. He was focused specifically on that. And it's been through this process of treating all these different patients and seeing the different manifestations of positive changes. For example, in the case of Lindsay, well, for one, I should say we can't fully distinguish yet. This is why we need more research. We can't distinguish to what degree the filtration versus the SGF is doing certain things. In the case of Lindsay, her resting heart rate, her POTS was very bad. Her resting heart rate went from the 90s to the 70s. In the case of my blood pressure, I would have extreme blood pressure swings, but my resting blood pressure went from the 140s to on average about 107 to 110. And
it's
so
something that we've seen.
It happens different in different patients. Yeah.
But reduced blood pressure right now is sort of almost one of the quicker responses that we see. And we had that in a patient last week who I was discussing with, said he just had his first SGF and immediately his high blood pressure was down to normal ranges. And those are physiological signals that are very difficult to ignore and just brush off as being sort of psychosomatic. in this instance. You can make that argument with perhaps some neurological presentations, but you know, cardiovascular presentations, you know, they're pretty much baked in as
what about tremors? Have you treated anybody with bad tremors?
So right now we haven't had any. So I've seen the patients who do have sort of myoclonus type disorders and tremors, dyskinesias. We haven't had any patients like that come through. I'd be interested to see how it works.
One
because
this week. One starts this
Yeah, I was
week.
about to say we have one that's with significant dyskinesia that you haven't met yet.
We
So
experienced it in real time with her the other day. We had coffee at Starbucks with her and her husband, and she was having an episode of the tardive dyskinesia, and her tremors were pretty bad.
Well, I'll be following that case closely then. So, you know, just to like, tremor was one of my areas of research. I spent a lot of time sort of working on that pre-COVID, and it's, well, funnily enough, it's how deep brain stimulation was discovered. Was that they would do electrode guided mapping in order to go in and sort of ablate the thalamus in sort of certain types of tremor conditions, and they found that they would do microstimulation, and that was enough to sort of stop the tremors emerging. And you know, that's one of those conditions where I think we have very good understanding of the neural pathways that are involved, perhaps some of the causal aspects to it, and yeah, if we can reverse that, then I don't know what else we can't reverse, I guess.
Robert Benson commented that he had tremors, and he was a patient, right?
Yes, but I wouldn't.
So in
I
the
wouldn't
chat,
have
he
called
just
him.
said
He had
Hey,
mild.
Bob.
I had mild too, where you could visibly see it, but not enough to cause disruption and stuff like that. But yeah.
And Robert just said it was gone after his first treatment.
Okay,
That's
there you
pretty
go.
cool.
Yeah.
That's been the hardest thing for me to treat is the tremors. The patients that have the, I'm thinking of a woman, a 53-year-old, I think, marathon runner, and her right arm has not stopped shaking since she got the shot. And of course, she went to Mayo, and they completely gaslit her. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how she responded to this.
I do want to state that I was lucky enough to be there the entire time with Bob when he was getting treated, and I saw him the day before he started, and the physical tension. I don't know how deep he wants me to go into the specifics of his case, but just the physical tension, the high blood pressure, the very overloaded nervous system was very evident with him. And in his case, his was the most dramatic after the first filtration that I've seen in terms of reduction of those specific symptoms. And so, but the other thing I wanted to mention is something that I've heard everybody say, but having talked to, well, all 80 current or past, present, or future patients right now, more than 90% of those 80 patients that I've talked to, and when I talk to them for an hour and a half or 2 hours a piece, and we go, so after Kevin looks at their blood, then if they're seriously considering coming, that's when we sit down and we'll have a Zoom conversation. And more than 90% of those patients were above average in terms of their physical fitness prior to their injury. And so I don't mean I mean, significantly above average in terms of physical fitness. Bob was a long distance runner. I was a Marine, career Marine. I used to run 5 miles 4 times a week, and then I would run my platoons. We've had ultra marathoners. We've had so many people who are in the gym. I mean, I know that Ken and Mark and so many patients were at least a little bit, if not a lot better in terms of physical fitness prior to their injury relative to their peers, regardless of age. So whether they were in their 20s or 40s or 60s, that's been very constant. And I think it's important to note, because there's the two biggest possibilities that jump out to me from that is that athletes are more likely, for a number of different reasons, to have damage in certain areas that then impacts them. But the other thing that I'm starting to think as I continue to do this, and I keep hearing the same thing, is that it might not be so much that it's targeting healthier people. I'm starting to think that a lot of the people that the reason we're only seeing mostly healthy individuals prior to this is that a lot of them are dead. That a lot of these long COVID sufferers had enough comorbidities, they had enough other life situations, they weren't in as good of shape, and so they just didn't survive and get to this point. So I don't know which is exactly the truth, but more than 90%, almost every single conversation I have with a patient, they are telling me about how physically active they were prior to the symptoms that they're experiencing now. And it's more than 90%. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Saved our life for sure. No doubt about it. No doubt.
Can you
Also,
tell? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say on the topic of tremors. I mean, I was having pretty bad spasms before coming to Japan, and it was getting progressively worse. And I mean, now it's barely ever happens anymore.
Like muscle jerks.
That's pretty common. Yeah, my right arm would just kind of jerk. I had no control over it, and I'd have like these weird like twitches, and it would hit my face sometimes. And now it doesn't happen at all, pretty much.
Right. Well, can you tell everybody how they go about getting their blood tested and what the process is for getting the treatment?
Sure. So go to synaptexlabs.com and
I'll leave that in the chat.
yeah, maybe if I can put it. Can I get into the chat?
There's a link to the Gawa Hospital site too that has everything, information, education wise.
Yeah, so you can go to the
DFPA.
Yeah, to the hospital's website, edagawadfpa.com. And,
all right, I'm going to put the.
So that goes to where I can see the chat. How do I chat in it? Doesn't give me an option to.
Yeah, you posted a link to your website, and on your website, the second tab is sending samples, and all the details are in there to send samples to Kevin.
Yeah, it just seems like I can see the chat, not
you're not able to
post,
leave it.
not able to post in it. So, but yeah, so the hospital's website, edagawadfpa.com, or through the lab, synapticlabs.com, and it's simple. Just dried spot of dried blood on a slide, and you can usually tell from there.
How far backed up are you, Kevin? How far back up are your blood samples right now?
It's for probably like 8 weeks.
Okay.
But we'll get to you. Don't worry. It's
okay.
Just, and if you want expediting, just drop me a line. I'll make sure it happens. And yeah, like I say, I've of all my, having watched, and I watched the emergence of or the failure of numerous stimulation-based therapies, right? Because just because we honed in on deep brain stimulation, I watched. Wow, I want to say that was pre-COVID millions. I don't know how it translates to today, but many tens of millions going into research projects, just around things like cortical stimulation, that type of thing, where they were making investments on sort of just a couple of % change in experimental models, and what we're seeing is just orders of magnitude beyond those types of metrics, and the rush to now. I don't want to be subject to how should we say predatory venture capitalists or anything. I like where we're at the moment, which is we don't have that pressure over us to get results, and so we're able to sort of treat each patient and work through them, work with them individually to try and get the best results for their treatment. And just the cohort has grown large enough that we're seeing a sub cohort right now that sort of sticks out, but I don't want to relay too much about that at the moment, just because it's such an early preliminary signal. Where in this case, their therapeutic response, they have a therapeutic response, but it's blunted, and I think it's blunted because of this finding that we have dug out of the data, and we'll work with that. And if it's a corollary of spike exposure, then we'll have to do the research to figure out how to mitigate it.
Well, you've been measuring antibody levels. Are you seeing significant changes in those?
Yeah, so we do see a downward drop, but the limits of that metric is that we only have, we're getting a lot of international patients coming in, and so we get usually if they come for a month, sometimes it's a little shorter, but I can get the antibody measures, and they do go down, and in some instances quite significantly. Just looking at my chaotic desktop and looking for where I put that figure.
Mine went down 25% with treatment, and I did a test right before I left and right when I got back. And I think most of the other patients are about that range as well.
Yeah, so that's not even the test I did, right? So that's something that you did
Yes.
a separate lab. So that just sort of confirms what I've seen at the measurements we've done. And I don't know what I have seen in antibody levels is that vaccine injured tend to have much higher antibody levels than long COVID for whatever reason. But the difference in what's going on at my door? The difference in conditions there's such a range, and I've seen really bad long COVID and neurological damage, but just no vaccines involved, and I've seen it with vaccine exposure as well. The problem is it's just not a clean data set, right? You speak to people and they say I got vaccinated and then I got so there's just prima facie evidence of just the vaccine's not working, right? They got vaccinated and then they catch COVID multiple times, and so the clinical picture in this instance is just not that clean, and any sort of clinical study is always beset by, again, people's pre-existing conditions. And unfortunately, if Charles' supposition is correct, that we did lose many, right? Many people did die during COVID and the post-COVID period. And what's left now is probably the walking wounded. And what they're hoping is just that they all die as well, and so no one's liable in the end. And I want to say good on you, Mary, for just holding Maha's feet to the fire. I saw the
Well, I mean, $7.8 million. And all that is PR. That's all for PR. There's no like what
We get zero.
That's
They're
for
not
those
helping
fancy
anybody.
hotels,
what?
fancy hotel rooms.
Yeah, fancy
I mean-
events, very lush, extravagant events. They spent $200,000 on flowers. They did. I mean,
But don't worry, at least he's going to get those dyes out of your cereal.
right.
Well, you're about to have 150 pissed off Americans and other people from other countries coming back. So they better
Yeah.
do something.
I want to real quick in the comments when I posted this yesterday, there were a lot of people saying try augmented NAC. Thoughts?
It's a scam product, I'm afraid. I've had people try it, right? Literally have me check their blood pre and post, and for all their talk of quantum hocus pocus, it's just an acetylcysteine at the end of the day. Yeah, it can be helpful, but it doesn't get to the bottom of this complex syndrome that we're dealing with post-COVID. My advice would be save your money.
What about nattokinase?
I haven't seen it have any measurable effect in the lab here in the patients we're seeing. And just funnily enough, I always just point people to a manuscript that just came out last year where they're testing and these are quite precision measures because they're sort of lab on chip sort of setups, right? And so they can quantify very well. And nattokinase and lumbrokinase just doesn't break up those amyloidogenic clots. I'm inclined to agree with them. That's my experience. And every patient that we've had come through or I've spoke to, because the thing is that I have a good year and a half of just sort of testing people before even being able to offer a treatment. And they were saying, well, I've done nattokinase and it doesn't do anything, I'm afraid.
What about prolonged fasting? That was another one that was mentioned.
So I'm more inclined to think that sort of autophagy might be a better approach. But does it get rid of, although you might sort of go through and get rid of sort of damaged cells, does it help clear out the aggregates from the bloodstream? That it doesn't do, I'm afraid. So yeah, I think it's kind of halfway getting there. If you can fast and if you can sort of do those elements for your health, it certainly doesn't hurt, but it doesn't get rid of those immune complex aggregates in your blood, I'm afraid. They just don't break down. That's the problem.
Kevin, question for you, just about the fasting. Sorry, Mary. Do you think fasting will be more effective post-treatment now that we've cleared up all those,
I think so.
arguments?
Yeah. If you've got the will to do it, sort of a couple of days fasting,
Or at least intermittent fasting, Arthur. It's helped me and it's helped with my energy increase.
I think the issue for a lot of people is they're probably on so many meds that it's hard to go on a fast. And that was really my issue at first, but now that I've stopped most of it and I'm in the process of stopping the rest, I'm going to be able to, do a bit of an extended fast.
Yeah.
And another thing that just I do see that is effective is Eliquis. Eliquis helps keep the aggregate size down, such that it's difficult for just quick microscopy to detect it. And so in this instance, if because not everyone can jump on a plane to Japan, right? But
Right.
the anticoag therapy is useful. Is it going to help everything? Doesn't help autoantibodies, that type of response, but certainly can help. Just with the microclotting, and
That's good to know. That's real good to know. That'd probably be more effective than the nattokinase.
Yeah. if you wanted to try something, just
aspirin helps.
Yeah. Well, and what about somebody mentioned in the comments IVIG treatment? Have you seen any?
That's just a Band-Aid on a bullet hole.
Yeah. And some people get even sicker with that.
Yes, and that's what I've seen
too.
here. We've had patients come here that have done that, and they're in a really bad way. So
well, they're not filtering the spike from the immune cells from the donors. So that's we started learning early on that they were getting sicker after their infusion instead of feeling better, and that's when they started transitioning them to subcutaneous instead of intravenous.
So if a patient's going to go to Japan, how long does it take?
The treatment itself. So I can tell you this. Everyone who's done less than 4 weeks afterwards always says, I wish I'd done. They'll do 2 weeks. So they wish they'd done 4. And after 4, is it diminishing returns? Probably. There's cost and sort of time. But 4 seems to be a sort of sweet spot for maximizing therapy. Just, making sure that the blood is well cleaned whilst getting the stem cell treatments.
And are there any age limits? Like, do you have to be a certain age, or
no?
Have you treated children?
Not yet. Young.
The youngest patient we've had or 2 patients were 14 and 17, but all of our other patients were adults. But we've treated everything beyond the 14 and 17. They were part of the family. We treated everybody from 18 all the way to 71 or 72, I believe.
Right. Well, what else? What about cost? What are people looking at in terms of how expensive it is?
And it depends.
US.
It depends. I mean, I'm going to be working for the hospital, and I have their actual price list. So let me just summarize that. The easiest way to explain it is that the treatment costs themselves will be between $11,000 and $14,500 per week, and that includes the filtration, which is approximately $6,300, and then the stem cells. The difference between 11 and 14.5 is the quantity of stem cell growth factors that you choose. So if it's, they price it per cc. So if you do 10 cc, it's approximately $3,500 per week, and it's double that if you do 20 cc. So the bottom line for the treatment costs is we just round up and we say between $11,000 and $15,000 per week.
Okay.
Or a little more with your rental and your food and your accommodations, and depending on how fancy you get. But so we all went down. I think I speak for everybody, all of the patients, that we tried the stem cells, we tried the EBOO, we tried the this, that, and the other. We spent thousands and thousands of dollars by the time we got there on stuff that really didn't work. So looking at Japan, yeah, it's expensive, but you know what? I can spend the next 6 months spending twice as much that, as bad as I feel. So it's actually a lot cheaper than what you could get here at the States. I mean, the rabbit hole of supplements and EBOO and red light therapy, and I mean, y'all all know, we know, and that's very expensive. An IVIG, that's very expensive. So Japan is by far the cheapest option, and it gives you the SGF to rebuild your own stem cells, and you get those autoantibodies and misfolding proteins and blood clots out of your body. It's a no-brainer if you're very, very sick. And then if you're not very sick, then maybe it doesn't make sense. Maybe you could try a coagulant first, and then if you don't get better from that, you can go to Japan. And so a lot of people call me every day, and I have a lot of conversations with people, and they're having symptoms and they have a lot of questions, and you know, they're really scared. I know that I was, I know Lindsay was. I know how frightened I was, and I didn't have anybody to talk to, but people don't know what we've been through. And if I could just take a minute, if people are listening and they have symptoms like brain fog, massive headaches, neck aches, fatigue, shortness of breath, your vision, double vision, blurry vision, you get really dizzy, you can't stand up, your heart starts to race or it starts to plummet, you get skin rashes or bleeding, weird stomach issues, you're confused, you forget things a lot, you, oops, where was I? Oops, I just passed my exit while I'm driving, severe muscle pain. These are all signs of microclots in your blood. And what we know for sure is that if you had COVID, you probably have some level of these microclots. Well, some people probably have the genetics to filter these out and they're okay. But some people like me and my family, they don't have the ability to do that. And so this is where we try to teach people, if you're having these symptoms, this is what it could be caused by. Get your blood tested. Well, they go to these doctors in the US and the doctors are like, oh, well, you just got anxiety. I'm going to put you on Zoloft. Well, no, that's not the answer. And so I'm trying to create awareness to these people that call me. And this is why I'm saying this, is because I have to go over this and over this many times a day. If these patients are having problems in the brain and they feel it's severe and they're bedbound, they need to have an MRI of their spine and their brain, and they need to run an encephalopathy panel to make sure that they don't have autoimmune encephalitis. You can do that in the US, but now you're prepared with this information. You tell the doctor what you need. If you're having severe heart problems and it's exploding and dropping down, you need to have a cardiac MRI. Make sure that your valves and stuff are okay. If you're having the neuropathy and you got the tingling and burning and pins and needles, you've got to have a test for small fiber neuropathy. You need to know that you have this so you can get down to what the autoimmune is. And the cytokine panel, which previously, we weren't really able to test that much. We can test that now. LabCorp's got a full cytokine panel. You can figure out what's causing this inflammation. Now the patients hear this and they have the information. They know what to go say.
I just want to, because I will say, yeah, so they're all, I've seen patients that have been to 50 doctors, had every test known to man, and nothing shows up. And so I kind of take the opposite approach, and I'm sort of a minimalist and just go by the symptoms more than anything. And, a cardiac MRI for myocarditis is great, but it's not done. I mean, it's hard to find. It's expensive. I don't know. I mean, I've just seen so many patients where they have gotten the $1 million workup and nothing shows up. And then they're told that they're crazy. I kind of disagree with going through all those tests.
Yeah, that's the really disturbing aspect that I see. I come across a lot, which is you have people that they do spend tens of thousands on trying to get testers to understand why they feel the way that they do. And then what happens is they get pushed along, and then eventually dropped into the bucket of functional neurological disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a hold all for them to say, to write something on your medical record that they've tried something, and here you go, here's some antidepressants to try and make it go away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's very, very clear pathology that just, it's not amenable to automated testing that modern medicines become reliant on. And you need a
Kevin, it might be interesting to show those amyloid slides to people.
well,
That's
actually
easy.
I can I've got
Plasma,
updates
see your difference in our
with that.
plasma.
Oh, and the plasma. Yep.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can sort of
Here,
bring.
I'll try to zoom that in, or zoom. Let's see.
Oh, that's Heather's, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I'm just blanking names out right now, but she has put it up on.
Yeah, she did. I
mhm.
saw that. I was like,
So,
wow.
But so the pre-apheresis, you can basically, if you look at the top of the tube, right, you can see that there's this white gunk stuck to the tube, and then post-apheresis, after her last treatment, it's essentially gone. And then on the right is, I don't mind showing this one because that was pulled out of my tube, and yeah, that's that ain't no microclot.
What is that? It looks like a piece of candy.
Yeah, it's just what's aggregated in the plasma. It's just gone through a freeze-thaw cycle, and just that's the predisposition to clotting disorders. And
I think it's pure nicotine, personally, but
you think it's
what? Pure nicotine. He's a voracious vapor. But anyway,
that is
I
what
digress.
causes our strokes and heart attacks on that slide right there.
Yeah, and so the thing is, like a year ago, I had 2 pulmonary embolisms after a bout of COVID. And I know it was COVID. I had the weird distortions to taste and smell to begin with. I was like, the vape started to just taste like rotten, like garbage. That's the smell you get from trash that's been out like a few days. And then like my wife's cooking was just like woof. And then it sort of then came on sort of pretty quick. I had everything that was sort of supposed to alleviate the effects. I did all that, and then you have this sort of pocket about 6 weeks later where people often sort of develop these sort of catastrophic clotting conditions. And it's started, I was having chest pain, and because I was able to look at my sort of clot burden, I have the scope next to me. I was looking at it, and I had a sort of record over the few months, and I was just here by myself. Called the wife, said you better get me to the hospital. They had a central line in and a contrast in, and they said, yeah, you've got 2, 1 each side, 2 pulmonary embolisms. And so it's sort of indicative of the hypercoagulable state that post-COVID or spike protein induces in people. And that slug-looking thing just came out of my plasma, and I was gonna sort of put hang on 1 second. I just do no, it doesn't change, right? If I bring that up, so just bear with me. I have to change what I'm presenting. I think replace.
Kevin, you may want to give up that vaping if you've had pulmonary embolism.
Never.
You'd have to
Thank you from my cold dead hands.
Yep.
I tried, Ken. Yeah, that's on that.
We also have seen the calamari clots in some potential patients coming as well. So now we've got
the reason,
microclots, we've got calamari clots, and now we've got blood starting to hydrogel.
so that's what I'm sort of trying to sort of get at, is that, you know, people have wondered about these calamari aggregations, and there's one that's pulled from an alive person, right? And that's how I don't mind showing. Well, you know, I see it a lot across many patients, and just Heather I know she's sort of put that up on Twitter, so I don't mind showing that one, and I don't mind showing mine, and that's problematic, and the apheresis does get rid of it, and it does. The stem cells prevent their formation. That was like I had that data a couple of years ago now, and you know, the issue was what to do with it. And although the SGF can sort of prevent their sort of formation, it was getting rid of them. And we were trying to send people to EBU, and that wasn't working. And then we just sort of lucked on DFPA. And the funny thing was that was just like standard kit in the hospital here in Japan. And like, oh, we can do that. We've got the machines, and just like I say, it's the combination of the therapies that's working so well. And there's nothing inherently new that's been pulled out of the medical toolbox here. These were established therapies for a long time. It's just their combination that's the factor here, and I think that's why we're having the success that we do.
Do you ever see blood samples in people that seem to have all the symptoms, but they don't have amyloid?
So in people that have been taking the anti-coag therapy, it's like I can get those through, and they can be negative for anything sort of obvious under the scope. But it's not just amyloid aggregates that define post-COVID, post-spike exposure syndromes. It's a lot of sort of autoimmune and auto antibodies that are the problem, and specifically, I think ones that are targeted towards central nervous system. And the therapy that we choose is just targeted. It's meant for neuropathy in this instance. And you know, that you know, as I was sort of working with Dr. Kato about, you know, what to use, he was sort of presenting me like this menu of filtration columns, and my I'm like looking through it, and eventually like, neurological, okay, I go for that. As soon as I see neuropathy, I said use that one, and that's what we've been using, and it's worked fantastically. I had one treatment, and you know, I've had neuropathy in my hands for years, right? I just resigned myself to living with it. You know, I wake up feeling, you know, my hands all clenched, and that's gone. Wow. After one treatment. Wow. The stodgy blood and cardiac chest pains, on the other hand, are another matter. But
needs more filter.
Do you order like specialized blood tests in addition to doing the amyloid on the slides?
Yeah. So there's, you know, as part of the sort of, we're still like a research program, right? Albeit outside of sort of main institutes, but you know, I treat it like any research program, and we're working to sort of quantify, and you know, I have a whole bunch of different sets of lenses and filters and what have you, just to try to find better signals, because there's a problem with the microclots is they're autofluorescent, and so if it's autofluorescent, it doesn't matter what wavelength of UV and filter you bounce off it, they kind of light up, and so you can. I just want to try to sort of narrow down the space in which we can be confident about how we're quantifying that data. And this stuff takes months and months to get here. I ordered this. What are we today? July, right? So this took 2 to 3 months to get here, and the last round 2 to 3 months to get that device set up and working. And it's just a long process in order to give people. I know people want sort of instant answers, but the simple fact is you're involved in research right now. It's a research protocol, and you're getting research diagnostics. Sometimes it comes out really great, but there's still a lot of work to do. And it's not, I'm afraid, sending a sample off to LabCorp and getting a automated test done.
Right.
That's validated, unfortunately.
Well, I was going to mention Jack Cruz is on here, and he said he sent one of his patients, Avant T. I hope she benefits. She has had a rough go. And Jack Cruz is one of the most critical. Yeah, if Jack Cruz is sending a patient, that says something. So that's
we love Uncle Jack.
Yes, hi,
Yeah.
Jack.
Hey, Jack, by the way. Yeah, we're all big fans.
And Avant
I think
just
that's
got
one of
here
the.
yesterday, so she's here.
That's one of the
Great lady.
best podcasts I've ever watched. Is you and Jack grilling Cali Means and who? Yeah, who was the
yeah, that was
That
great.
was so fun.
That was great.
Yeah, Jack's like ferocious in.
Mary got ferocious too.
Yeah.
Get
Just
your feisty side to you, Mary.
yeah, but
well, he just wouldn't answer the question, right? He just kept dodging, and that got very frustrating.
And that's essentially the failure mode in Maha right now. Is those are the people that sort of got around RFK. And the thing I say to people is, look, man, you're halfway through the midterms of when's that? In November, right? In the US. That's a couple of months away. Actually, halfway through essentially the last term that Trump can do. I seriously think any chance of re-election might just be blown by the fact that they're in another forever war. And so there's very, very little in the way of good news coming for American citizens right now in terms of therapeutic interventions. And right now, look, the first couple of patients, when I say the first 10 patients, like I was incredibly nervous, right? Because it's a big responsibility to take, and someone to come so far and engage in experimental therapy. But and the first ones have gone well, but I'm always conscious of that might just been pure luck. But after 40 patients, and the response is pretty uniform across the cohort, bar this small cohort that we've come across. And just from a neuroscience perspective, it's incredibly interesting, but I don't want to bore the crowd.
I'm dying to know what the signal is, but you're not going to tell us yet.
I'll tell you off camera, but just there's as you say, there's lots of predatory individuals and organizations out there that would want to see us fail, because we've done this in a very open source manner, right? And we haven't hidden what we've been doing. There's no there's no, I don't know, yeah, there's nothing sort of novel in terms of the technology. It's just a combination
Right.
that is unique, and we've shown everyone what it is that we're doing, and people with patients have come and freely put their experience online as to what's happened, and we don't demand that of them, except Arthur. I was lashing Arthur to get on. No,
I'm gonna get around to that. I just needed the blood filters really like tired me out, and
yeah, that's one thing I can say is from my experience, apheresis, right? You will be fatigued after doing apheresis. I was in bed for a week.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, just.
I was running the bases.
Yeah, typically 24 to 48 hours, but Kevin is a complex case. So,
but the neuropathy had gone. Well, it's amazing to me that symptom that I just resigned myself to just be like, getting old, and it is what it is, and now it's gone.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That worried me a little bit while I was in Japan. I think on like the third week, I was just so tired, and it kind of killed my motivation a little bit. But it's just I was just having a really strong reaction to the filtration process.
Oh yeah, week 3, the thrill is gone.
At least you didn't go into shock.
Yeah. Oh, I did.
I had that happen during EBU.
Certainly did.
Yeah,
well, congratulations, y'all.
Lindsay, you went into shock?
Yeah, my first filtration, it triggered my POTS, and Charles was beside me at the bedside, and I turned to him and I said, "Don't panic. Just let them know I'm going into hypovolemic shock." And I turned to my side. I turned sheet white. They put my feet up and ran the saline, and I perked up pretty quick. But yeah, I was about to plummet. My blood pressure started dropping. I turned to my side because I got really nauseous. And then they started panicking. I was like, "Don't panic. I'm okay." And then I was walking around the room once I got back up to it. So I recovered pretty quickly. But yeah,
this was all done.
It triggered the...
This was all done though under ICU conditions, right? So that's another thing that just places that are saying they're offering apheresis, you need a full hospital behind you to be able to cope with any sort of eventualities. And the POTS is a generally considered intractable problem, and a few weeks later you're running around. I let the dog run around the bases. I just sit around and watch the dog around those bases. But it's
how can we help people who can't afford this? What do you think? Is anybody doing like a big fundraiser, or
not quite now?
So
like I spoke with Dr. Cato, and like we're trying to set up foundation to do that, and we're sort of very
needs to be done.
We're very cognizant of the fact that there are people in need that need help, and we can. I don't know how it relates to charitable registration in the US, etc. But it's my sort of idea was, people that have been able to afford is just say, look, why don't you chip in? Ken has some ideas about that right now.
Yeah, I'm working on that. Working on that now. The patient.
Some of us did have to sell our house, our cars, and stuff to get the rest of the treatment money. I was one of those, and some of the others. But I think a foundation or something bigger until we can grab the NIH purse hold or some government funding.
$1 million.
Everybody has their own individual funds right now.
Yeah.
Right.
$1 million gets you 2,600 patients at 4 weeks.
Wow.
So
yeah, we do.
If we could do that, we could You could book a year out, 2 years out. But the real thing is the patients need the money. I mean, these people are sick. And the longer we go, the sicker they get. And now they're really sick. And they're miserable. And that's the whole thing, 8 weeks to check these people's blood. Oh man, these people are sick. And then like Charles said, it takes a lot of time to explain to them what's going on in their body and what's the next steps. Okay, this causes that. And then it's like, okay, I could be really, really sick and dying, and now I have to come up with $80,000. So what am I going to do? That's a lot of stress. So,
who should contribute to the foundation? Would be a great. Is Maha.
Yeah,
yeah, but
Maha has millions.
But I have said so many bad words about Kennedy and Trump lately. I don't think they'll be doing that. But
I don't see Maha doing anything. I don't see React 19 doing anything. I don't see other groups doing anything.
I will say I'm on the board of Vaccine Safety Research Foundation, and we don't have any money.
They are.
We don't have like the millions that I don't know about React 19, but
they're out of money. They're done.
Vaccine Safety Research Foundation basically is operating on month to month, like just like paying employees.
They're at least interviewing us, though.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah.
Though Maha has 6 different little entities. They are swimming in money, and they're completely turning their eye to the greatest crime of our generation or of humanity. Right? I mean, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like this.
They caused this. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Trump and Kennedy, they knew about the CDC stats and the FDA. They knew about all that stuff, and then they injected all those kids. My thought is they probably inject them with saline. Nobody's stupid enough to turn around and give that to 7 million kids. I can't.
I don't know. They are true believers.
Well,
they are disciples of Pfizer. Yes.
I mean, people that have been through what we've been through want them in jail, and there's no other way around it.
Yeah, but there's the problem, right, Ken? Is just people's desire for not only vengeance but also costs, right? Even if you're going to be generous and say, okay, we're not going to hold people criminally responsible, but financially liable. No one wants to be holding that particular hand grenade, because it's bankrupting, right? And so people have asked me about the treatment in and of itself, right? So it's two canisters, right? So about this size, and you're like, well, okay, it's how much is it to give everyone in the United States access to those 2 filters? That cost just goes to extraordinary levels when you take the numbers involved into account. And I don't have good answers for this other than to say try to set up foundation, but then you need people with money that's gonna sort of put it to that use. And basically you just be transparent, right? What did you say, $1 million is 2,400 patients? Okay, right, we've got 2,400 patients to get through. Here's the list, and then you do some sort of raffle for patient numbers to get
triage based off priority. We could do that.
There's not a lot of time. There's no time here. No. These people are so sick, and they're getting sicker, and there's just not a lot of time. Like, I would go to my congressman, my senator, city meetings. There's no time for all that. These people are sick, and some of them are going for 2 weeks, and they should have gone for 4. These GoFundMes are a terrible failure. It's a bad situation. I'll do everything I can to help these people. It's a shame that we have to do this and even have this discussion. The government created this in 2012, and they're not cleaning up their mess. And that's the bottom line. And so if I say a cuss word on X, somebody better start cussing. Somebody better start getting mad and join in, because this is not how it's supposed to be. This is the United States of America. So excuse me if I name call every once in a while. I'm not dropping any F-bombs, but I feel like the people that have the power should be stepping up. Trump, he did away with the whole long COVID treatment program last year. This is the time when it's the sicknesses and the numbers of people are accelerating. This makes no sense whatsoever. It's just
I like this comment. Trump can buy Greenland for $100 billion, but the government can't help those sick from COVID-19.
Yeah, I mean, the Egyptian trannies get more money than the COVID. It's just unbelievable. I can't even believe this is happening. I thought for sure when people saw me and Lindsay laying in these beds dying that we were going to get all this money and we were going to get everybody well and everybody was getting on board and nothing. And I
think momentum is growing. I mean, I sense online at least people are paying more attention to this, and now y'all got 40 patients. So that's pretty good. That's not,
it's a significant cohort to start writing, preliminary papers, and I'm close to doing that just around the current finding we have. If that holds, and I want to do that, but the 40 patients with respect to the apheresis treatment is, you might get that published. I think you could expect quite a bit of resistance still in terms of trying to get it as approved sort of clinical therapy, but as a preliminary study, maybe you could get it in.
So when did we have our last podcast? 2 weeks ago? In the last 2 weeks, my uncle had a stroke.
A little longer than that, because it was probably 4 weeks, I would bet, I think.
I mean, in that 4 weeks,
right when I got back home.
In that 4 weeks, my uncle had a stroke, had a 1-foot blood clot pulled out of him. His daughter has antibody levels of 20,000. She's sick. 2 of my friends are passing out and they're sick. And that's just 4 people in the past 2 weeks. One's having seizures. I mean, if this is in my life, what's in your life and what's in your friend's life and your acquaintance's life? That's the thing. It's starting to roll now. And now's when we need the help, and it's not available.
Well, so Kevin, in the comments, Patty Burke said, please appeal to Governor Ron DeSantis and Surgeon General Latipo. But isn't the big hurdle the FDA, or what's the big hurdle bringing it to the U.S.?
So one is the secondary filter column. That's not approved. The other is the stem cell growth factors. Now, there's a concentrated form which can come or could be applied for with respect to FDA. The formulation that's we're using is this far less refined but more broader repertoire of cytokine, chemokines, growth signaling molecules, and exactly which one is doing what. And again, trying to figure that out is not easy, because one you want to get a reproducible test platform in which to do it, and we don't really have those at the moment where we can definitively say, oh, it just recapitulates all the symptoms that humans have, right? Primate studies have proved sort of, well, not impressive in their response. There's some work on hamsters which does sort of show some crossover, but the platforms aren't there, and most of what's been done is a sort of ever increasing sort of descriptive effort and sort of biomarker type pursuit of the condition, rather than really coming up with good working frameworks as to what's happening with people with long COVID. And like I say, right now our sort of metric is we just divide it up into 3: neuro-COVID, cardiovascular, gastrointestinal, and then if there's crossover between them, and that's sort of cluster we see. But
now people in the comments are saying, what about right to try experimental?
I don't know. That's
actually, so I have been talking with, because we have potential NIH grants that we've been working on putting together, but the main problem that we have, so Kevin mentioned that we have to get the filter column for specifically approved by the FDA. In order to do compassionate use, humanitarian use, whichever term you want to use, you have to at least show safety and efficacy, which means you have to do a phase 1/2A clinical trial, and you'd have to do it individually for the filtration machine with that specific filter, and a separate trial for the SGF. And because
do that trial in the U.S.
Well, so we could do that, but we have to have safety and efficacy signals just to get to the point where we can do compassionate use in the U.S. That's the minimum requirement.
On animals? Is that those phase 1 are done on? Who are the subjects of those early studies?
Yeah, so it's sort of preclinical, and then a couple of patients who have agreed to step into the crosshairs, as it were. Now, the good thing on our side right now is that it is a well-established therapy in Japan, not for what we're using it, but for other conditions. And there's a whole range of different treatments that are amenable to treatment with DFPA, and it has a long established record. Now, the question I have is, like, even though it's been made standard practice in Japan and parts of Asia as well, why haven't those earlier treatments translated over to the US? And again, my forward is just that there are just special interest groups that don't want a non-tablet form type of therapy, right, where you're having to go and get prescription and sort of silver bullet type molecules that medicine has been sort of accelerated on in the West, whereas they have a much more holistic view to health here in the East. I think that's the only reason I can think of. It's sad.
So Japan, their government allows them to undergo experimental treatment without going through some sort of gigantic regulatory program like the FDA. Do they have an FDA in Japan, or they just
yeah they do. So in fact, they're very strict, right? So we're not allowed to make sweeping claims about regenerative therapies or anything like that, but we can. It's been established that you can use SGF in conditions where the clinician thinks it would be useful. So it's down to the clinician's discretion.
Oh, isn't that a novel idea?
Yeah, I know, right? Imagine. The other is just the apheresis technology. You know, that was developed in Japan many decades ago, and so they use it and use it with great success. And it's their whole approach to how to use it as well is different to how you see other clinics. Other clinics can't provide the type of I'm trying to think of the invasive is not the we'll just go with the invasive, right? Because just because of the targeting of jugular and cerebral outflow, okay, that's something that you would need a hospital to do, right? You need ultrasound guidance, you need X-rays done as the catheter is being put into place. There's a whole bunch that sort of goes into doing this that isn't done with clinics in other parts of the world who are saying that they're offering the same therapy. And again, you're trying to filter like the whole of the body through this this volume, or you try to filter the outflow from the brain in this instance through the jugular vein, and that's a big contributing factor, I think, in just the subjective response that patients have. And
have you
then, of course,
just for devil's advocate, have you tried the femoral vein, or is it just it has to be the jugular?
it has to be done. We have done it in I said one patient, just one patient. But in that instance, again, because you're using femoral vein, like the bulk flow is just coming from much of the rest of the body, right? Whereas the jugular vein is primarily brain and a few muscles around.
Are
the
you
face.
filtering the entire circulatory system, or is it? Short term?
It's circulating as much as it can till it will go to the limit of the filter itself, right? And so it's pulling constantly, and so it's just simple fluid mechanics in this instance, right? And so
yes, and I do want to clarify or just add on to that in the sense that we did not choose the jugular access. That was something that the hospital has done for decades because of the volume. In this case, we're doing 1.5 liters of plasma, a plasma being a little bit more than half of your blood. And so the hospital and the company that produces the machines, places here in Japan that use the machines, but this hospital in particular has for a very long time gone through this method for the primary reason that it is it's the larger volume of blood compared to the femoral, compared to going traditional dialysis is in one arm and out the other. It's a higher volume of plasma that can be exchanged through the filter. And serendipitously, we happen to be treating neuropathy issues. And so catching the blood as it's being pumped back out of the brain, back to the heart, is the perfect location. But we didn't choose it. It was already chosen by the hospital. And yes, we do, but we do believe that that is part of the reason why it's so successful. And then I know that Jack, he said in the comments, the femoral vein has higher infection rate. And that is actually something that we haven't mentioned publicly, but that is something else that the hospital told me was part of their justification for why they chose the location that they did.
Right.
And that cannula goes in and comes out the same day. And other clinics are trying to leave cannula in and causing problems. And so there's been a lot of serendipity. I really wish I could say, oh yeah, I've worked it all out. No, there was a whole bunch of luck involved in sort of coming to the sequence of treatments that we did, and just the amyloid blocking cascade, right? That was Dr. Kato. Just like, as I was trying other things, he just said to me, "I'll try this," right? Just as a sort of, and in my mind, I was just like, well, how on earth is that going to work, right? And actually, it turned out it's the only thing that's worked out of
Fast, yeah.
Yeah, an inordinate amount of compounds, including nattokinase. Lab grade nattokinase did nothing. Right?
Oh, here's an idea from Jack Cruz. Use a hospital ship in international waters off the east and west coast. Could be done, but needs U.S. government has to be complicit, and they won't because DARPA is about tapering the Ponzi, not helping the injured.
Yeah, we've thought about that, and just the costs of the ship and maintaining the ship.
Yeah.
It's just easier just to say, go just do it in Japan.
That's true. I could see that being a big hurdle.
So,
Plus, everybody gets sick on a ship, right?
yeah.
I will not go on a cruise.
Yeah, what was the recent one? Hantavirus, you saying? Yeah. So
Hantavirus.
yeah. So I'm pleased with just the progress that we've made, the response of the patients, the stabilization of the protocol, and the esprit de corps, I guess, of the people involved. It is very hard work, and even just it's not that far, like in American terms. Like, well, it depends on traffic, right? It can be 6 hours or it can be 10 hours, right? But I do that once a week to pick up samples and stuff. That's exhausting, and I had to. So I was there at the weekend, and I got a call in like late at night, and my son, well, my two boys were just fighting, and my son had put his hand through some glass on the door, right? And I had to sort of go for stitches. So I just out the door and just trying to get back, and just all I saw was like big blood-filled tissues and stuff, and we're at the hospital, and I'm like, oh god. Last time it was like that, it was Charles bleeding everywhere all over my car, and
different story. We'll cover that one later.
But that was exhausting. I've had 2 days in bed.
Yeah.
And I say it's and then you've got to do the lab work when you get here, and it's non-standard lab work, right? It's not sending off to LabCorp, and there is LabCorp is offering the amyloid detection.
Oh, they are.
But yeah, it's just going to Dr. Vaughan. I saw a report. It looks like Dr. Vaughan's report. So and someone in the chat says they use plasmapheresis in antiphospholipid syndrome. Yes, they do, and they for sure treat that here, and have it's such a complex disease, but
and sepsis and several kidney conditions. So.
Yeah, Jack's going to get El Salvador to do it, and then we can all pay for it with Bitcoin.
I don't have any Bitcoin.
Uncle Jack.
Definitely reach out to us.
Lab. That's what I did, and
that's right. When we set up the lab in 2024, Kevin, it was about as independent.
All my Bitcoin.
That's right.
Well, I'm hearing wind of a spike protein test on the horizon. I'll say that in the U.S.
I've taken one.
Like a commercial one?
I have. It's a spike exome test. I don't think they're ready to come to market yet, and they're pausing. And I don't think that the spike protein test has a measure of if you're high or low, or if you have symptoms or you don't have symptoms. I think it's just, is it there or is it not? And if
I think your lab's different than the one I'm my lab. I mean, it's not my lab at all, but the person that I know is doing it.
Right.
I'm not familiar with that. What test you had?
I had a javelin test, but I know that they're shutting down till the month of September. And my levels came back at 70, but there's really no way to tell whether that was high or low, or it doesn't relate to symptoms I would be having. But I wanted to see if I had the spikes, exomes in my body. And at least now I have a baseline, as long as my sample goes back to the same lab, whether it's going up or down or staying still, I don't know. But I felt like it was time for me after the filtration to go and see, okay, well, where am I with spikes? Because I know some of the patients coming in don't have spike exomes, but they have bad symptoms. I know that some people have very low antibodies, but really bad symptoms. And I know some people have really high antibodies and no symptoms. So I'm just confused about the whole thing. And you know, Kevin was right. Sometimes the antibodies are not as important, but we're really, the people out here, normal people, don't really have much of a choice if they want to find out what's going on. So,
Kevin, what do you think about this spike test? You have a look of skepticism.
So there's not many ways of actually detecting spike protein levels, right? There's sort of indirect measures like, well, they think it's an indirect measure with antibodies, but I'm not so sure that's the case. Is it reacting, or is it just once triggered, the immune system, it just sort of doesn't find the off switch? And part of that problem, I think, just comes from so they know that the white blood cells, primary blood monocytes, that they go around and they sort of gobble up sort of viral proteins and cell breakdown, and they don't go through normal programmed cell death like they're supposed to, and they tend to hang around longer than they should. And I think what the SGF is doing is it's enough of a boost of a signal to say to those cells, go through programmed cell death. So there's newer immune cells that are now replacing those old tired ones. And you just need the right test. I mean, I've actually got the kit in my freezer to do, but it's sort of separating out white blood cells. And I was like, oh, there's another 20,000 just to get the kit just to separate blood and get out white blood cells cleanly. And you know, what's useful and what's sort of diminishing returns with respect to the research that you're doing. And the primary goal right now is, we know that therapy is working. You don't get that degree of hit rate just off chance. It's not statistically possible. And with the markers that we do see, it's better just to concentrate on getting the word out, establishing the protocol, making sure it's concrete and done correctly. And actually now is maybe time on our end to maybe try different filter columns with the patients, right? Maybe offer different ones through the course of treatment. I don't know, but like 40 off a preliminary study is plenty in my mind. Do we find a lot of, someone just asked about anti-nuclear antibody tests. To some degree, varies a lot. And the thing that I'm most convinced about is should like the X-ray that you're looking at. There's certainly a sub cohort that has this cardiovascular presentation, and then the majority at rest present as neuro-COVID type conditions. And what exactly that injury is, well, if you looked at those X-rays, right, or that those denser white patches, essentially all the capillary networks all being sort of backed up, and it's just more blood pooling there basically. and sort of causing congestive strain on the heart. I think that's happening in the brain, and but I also think a lot of the in all the patients that we see with neuropathy, I think that's more auto antibody driven type response.
I just have a quick question. It's pretty relevant to people who are considering going to Japan. I'm wondering, like, how can you gauge the urgency of needing treatment? And what I mean by that is, you know, I've done a ton of tests over the years. I did plenty of imaging on my chest. It always came back clean, supposedly. I'm waiting for copies. And all of a sudden in Japan, you know, it's you know, I think you said it's one of the worst cases you've seen. So, you know, and this has happened pretty much in the space of less than a year. And during that time, I managed to really stabilize my symptoms. So I was doing much better in that respect. But clearly my body was, you know, failing me. Any advice as to how people can gauge, let's say, the urgency around, you know, needing some kind of, you know, specific treatment like the one in Japan, for example?
So that's just a triage question, and generally I've done enough sort of analysis to where if I don't get a direct referral from another clinician, I can you know, every time I talk to someone, it's an hour and a half, usually 2 hours, and by that time I've got some pretty good idea of where they're plotting along the severity spectrum, and you know, women and children first, right, and then the rest of us can tough it out for a little bit, unless you're someone, you know, Ken was in a bad way, and you know, the thing that triggers me most is the number of times it's been I'm wanting to end it, right, and when people are talking in those terms because of the misery that they're in, then you should get sort of bumped to the top. But right now we have a surge capacity that we're not, I don't know, where are we with that, Charles? I think we're just sort of bumping up against it right now, right?
Yes, we are. We, like I said, when we first began this, the hospital had the capacity to do 4 patients per week, and now we could do up to 18 patients per week. So it is exponentially expanding, but there is a natural limit given the size of the hospital and the number of patients. They're talking potentially going to 27, but that would pretty much, I think, be the logical limit, just given the constraints of the hospital. I mean, this is a large hospital. It's a 459 beds, and then they have 12 different community clinics as well. So once again, this is not to denigrate other smaller operations, but there's a very large base of support here. There's one hospital that's just a cancer center. In fact, that's how Dr. Kato first became interested in vaccine injury, is because in his cancer hospital, he was seeing significant rises in these rare early onset, fast onset cancers. And then later, in talking to Kevin as a patient, they developed this friendship. But we are going to reach a natural limit of how many patients we can do. We're still exponentially growing, but and these are good problems to have. But we're at the point where we have enough data, and what we really need is institutional support. We need much love in order to be able to expand this and to be able to research and fully understand the mechanisms for what's working. We need much more than what we currently have.
Yeah, I would say we're on the limit of what's achievable, not the patients coming, but just like what's infrastructure wise in research, because there's still a lot that needs to be done. As I said, there's this broad range of, you know, people who have high antibodies and don't have any problem, etc. Why is that? And real those markers should be investigated, and I would love to do it, but I just think right now we have something that's working, it's effective, and it's streets ahead of any other therapy that's out there. And I know that just because I've been in this space for so long, and I know most of the people running whatever, if they're pushing vitamins, etc. And well, even that just to be clear, I think she's awesome individual, Beate Jaeger in Germany. She does DFPA, but she doesn't have the rest of the bits of the variables of the equation to hand, and so she's kind of stuck. And she does great work, but without all those other parts that just linked together and all part of the infrastructure here, you're likely gonna regress, I think, far quicker.
Do you have demand from the injured in Japan? Do they know about this?
Starting, yeah, because well, fortunately, Japan was, well, no, it's a double-edged sword. So Japan has, I want to say it's probably even the highest vaccine uptake in the world, right? And the reason being that just their high IQ, but also high conformity culture, and so most people went ahead and just told what they follow what your doctor says, and it's an aging population, and so the pushback though has been quite well organized from Japan in this individual called Professor Murakami at Kyoto University, and he became sort of quite outspoken just about how these were failures, and there was I've forgotten his name now, but who sort of pointed to the synthetic nature of SARS early on, virologist, and so there was some anti-vax type voices around, but not the overlap with English is limited, right? So that it's a whole other sphere and universe, and but it's growing. So that the pressure on facilities is going to be harder because there's going to be more Japanese coming in. So
that's not good.
But if it's working, then we can get more hospitals to do it, right? That, like Edogawa Hospital has, they have other. It's not just the one hospital, right? They own other clinics and hospitals out there, and so they can amplify in that direction, right? And right now, the concern I have, which I raised a lot, is we could easily say, well, there's the whole protocol, go and do it, but if people mess it up or they're not as diligent as they are here, then it becomes a negative data point across a very complex set of variables that we're trying to balance right now. And personally, I would just for efficacy's sake and reproducibility, I would say just come to Japan.
We just need. Does anybody know Elon Musk? We just need a
work
trying a little donation.
Yeah, I don't think he's the
Does he
savior.
need another baby mama?
Oh, Lindsay, are you volunteering?
Well, I mean, I'd take one for the team. But
Oh boy. Yeah, it's a shame Kevin doesn't have any money. It's hard to believe, isn't it? Unbelievable.
I had sort of resigned myself to a life in academia, which was, you weren't rich, but you were sort of somewhat looked after by, that's the trajectory I was on prior to COVID. And I just, COVID came along, messed everything up. And I asked myself, would I have done the same were I on, well, I was on sort of like tenure tracks. Like, would I have spoken out? It's only because I was sort of in between positions and I got hit with COVID hard. I think it's sort of accepted now that COVID was circulating far earlier than they claim it, even in the mainstream. And I caught mine in what turned out to be Asia's biggest sort of super spreader event, which was Daegu, South Korea. And I was there in November into December, and then I'll say into January, February, they it sort of blew up from South Korea, and that was because of this it was a cult church going backwards and forwards to Wuhan, apparently. I don't know, maybe. But
sorry. Well, there's a good question here in the chat. What has been your most durable response, and like who's been your most dramatic and longest lasting? Not to spar competition amongst our panel here, but
they've, like, you're sort of looking at the top tier here, but there's been many others along the who are sort of matching that.
Bob was he was out running 6 miles and going to concerts. I don't think you could top that.
Right.
Great guy too. He is just great. Yeah. And Tamara was unvaccinated, and she's doing okay. She's got some problems, but she's still plugging along.
We've got, like I say, it's a good proportion of long COVID. Like in the lab, I see 50-50 COVID and back injury. And then you speak to people who've had back injury, then they've had COVID multiple times, and we know that like the more doses of vaccine you get, the more COVID you get, right? It's sort of like this vicious circle. But I think you just have to look at the X-rays. Like Arthur, in my view, was at the point of congestive heart failure, right? When you look at that X-ray, and to see him turn around the way that he has done, he looks 15-20 years younger. I don't know what filter you've got running, if you've got a filter running, Arthur, but just
my girlfriend's a big fan of yours.
Okay.
She's quite happy with the results.
Okay. So yeah, I think where the pathology is so critical, I think that's just where I would sort of draw the line. And then secondly, it's the things like POTS that have responded just from a neuroscience perspective. It's just one of those conditions that they don't understand well. It's not treated well, and it's literally, you have to manage it, and these people become bedbound or housebound essentially. And we've seen amazing turnarounds in what's a very intractable disorder in this instance. But
so we have a question. Do you think biotech would want to fund this? And I said, I don't think you want private equity, et cetera, to take this over, but you might want to answer that.
Yeah,
no thanks.
I would be happy. I'm happy for people to donate for science sake. I'm very wary of sort of venture capital moving it in and then start placing demands on turnaround with therapies and patents and things like that. It's the reason medicine's such a mess as it is generally in the West anyway, right? It's universities are predicated on it and just looking for that one silver bullet approach. And the thing right now is biologicals and synthetic antibodies, right? And I think that's just a disaster waiting to unfurl, unfortunately.
So it sounds like for now we need to work on raising money so that patients can get over to Japan. It's probably the most efficient, expeditious way to approach this.
I mean, you just heard $1 million is 2,400 patients.
2,600.
Right? 2,600, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I hadn't calculated the numbers, but like that would swamp us for years, right?
Yeah.
And of course we would take care of each patient as we've done all the others. But then how to make it such that you're being fair and triaging, right? So then of course you've got the serious people, and then you've just got people who are they might not be close to death, etc., but their lives have gone, right? And they're just housebound. And the amount of people I speak to like that, it's endless, unfortunately.
It's awful. And there's a lot of them, and they don't know what's going on, and they're scared, and they don't feel well.
No, they feel wretched.
And everybody here knows what that feels like. That's a terrible thing to feel like that. It's just awful. And I feel for these people. It's personal to me. I want so bad to help, and then I feel so badly that we haven't gotten the help we deserve. It's cruel. It's hard to believe. But I think you'll have a great team. Charles didn't get a proper introduction. He knows everything. He's so full of knowledge. And Lindsay, she was a nurse before she was ever injured. And of course, Kevin is the mad scientist. So we're all behind y'all.
Could we? Sorry, I hate to interrupt, but what about as in the future, once all the kinks are worked out, we've got a set way of doing all this. Could we put this in dialysis centers?
That would be my aim point, right? Because they at least have some operational frameworks for this type of approach. It's just the jugular approach that but it may just be that it's not you maybe not getting the top tier of treatment, but it's better to get some treatment in this instance. And if it's distributed around, but then just the public demand on dialysis centers would go through the roof. They already struggle enough as it is, right? Just with kidney patients. So I don't know what the answer is. Someone needs to think outside the box. And the US, even if you said, try and put somewhere put a center in Mexico, well, okay, it just becomes one center, and it's not a hospital, right? And it's apparent to me you need full hospital infrastructure behind you to do this.
Yeah.
I agree.
Unfortunately,
not the office. Not the office.
No.
Unfortunately, no. It's not. It's not. Well, I don't know. Don't go down the jugular vein. Maybe then, but I think the jugular vein is a critical component of it. Yeah, maybe it's better just to say, okay, we forego the sort of precision and the efficacy of filtration by the jugular, and you just have people do it like it's being done in other clinics. Just accept that the failure rate is lower, and just have to do it more often, I guess.
Is there any consideration as to why the filtration is done once a week? Like, do you have any research around that your body needs a certain amount of time to readjust before a second one is beneficial, or?
So that's just that's sort of rule set by the hospital, but we've had people do more, right? And we've had severe patients do many, I say many, but multiple per week, to try to get to some therapeutic endpoint. And I don't know, man, after my experience, I don't think I'd want to be doing more than once a week.
No way. Neither.
You have to you switch jugulars with the
Yeah.
equipment?
Yeah. And
Yeah, we alternate each side.
And you know, you can just look at the x-rays of, you know, where the cannula guide is in, right? And it's yeah, it's not an office, it's not a storefront, it's not a storefront procedure, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to Dr. Verone, and he's in ICU, but he's like, yeah, I think we could make, because if you did it at like an outpatient surgery center, maybe.
Yeah, but so where do you? So long, yeah, okay. So you have the ultrasound guidance, you have the X-ray in place, and to me, I guess once the catheter is in, it's in. Short of, you know, the blood pressure drops, which is why we do the patients in the ICU. Yeah, what's the blockage there? Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just having, like, in Edogawa, there's just multiple doctors and specialists just around the whole procedure. It's
Right.
difficult to say which one could you pull out. Like,
But
what's that
once
Jenga,
you
right?
get a certain number of people, you can tell, okay, what's the risk of something serious happening? Like, how risky is this? And then you could make that, does it really have to be in ICU based on that?
Yeah, so if you could triage that way,
yeah,
ICU to what can be done in like day clinics. But like I say, I know the data sort of coming from Germany and where they do it, and the impact just isn't the same. And so, but who would fund the study where you go down and break each component apart? So we just say, okay, who just gets SGF? We're going to treat 4 weeks of SGF, see how they do. We're going to do just filtration and see how they do, and then the combinations of columns, etc. To do that study is a massive, should be NIH multi-center type study, and that I can't see them doing it, and I don't see them or RFK doing anything in the next 2 years, unfortunately.
no.
Not if I have any say so.
And Maha is sitting on millions, but they're buying flowers.
That's the easy target here, right?
Maha.
Put pressure on Maha, and $1 million. If they can spend, what did you say it was on flowers?
$200,000 on flowers.
So it's just, That's how many, like 800 patients? No, 700 patients, right? We could do, right?
It's really sad.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to put that online tomorrow.
Mhm. Yeah, I say just props to Mary just for keep sticking that out there, right? And just keep holding these people to account, because otherwise they won't. They'll just keep sliding by, and then they're getting their paychecks, and everything's, they're just working towards their pensions.
Yeah, it looks like they don't have any more money now. They spent $7.7 million last year.
Yes.
On, I don't know. I'm not sure what they accomplished.
They had some good
conferences.
Yeah. Typical.
Right. So they don't have the money now. Who was that other lady who got caught? Gold. What was her name? Some COVID related issue. Yeah, she was some vocal doctor a few years ago now. I've forgotten. Amyloids, but there's been many millions pumped into various organizations that achieve nothing.
Right. I always look, but if I'm going to donate to somebody, I always look at their Form 990, and I see, if they're swimming in money, they act like they're all poor. I do not give them money. People need to research before they just donate their money, even if it's a small amount. It's all online. You just got to go look.
I did not know that. That's a good point.
Form 990. That's what you want. Any nonprofit.
Right.
And you will get, it's not as detailed as I'd like it to be, but you get enough sense. You get, revenue, and if they're begging you for money and they've got millions of dollars and you're not really even sure what they do with that money, then you should not donate to them.
Right.
We learned how many fronts just for USAID anyway, right?
Right.
The one good thing to come out of this second presidency, I suppose. We got that. And rap music dropping off the charts, apparently. All right.
Well, this has been a long but fruitful session, and we're almost to 3 hours. So we're probably all exhausted. But any last comments?
No. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for doing
I'd like to discuss one of these podcasts. I'd like to start discussing Pfizer and some of the stuff that happened. I know that my people, of course, our X crowd is the best in the world. I wish I knew every one of those people, but people around me don't know anything about the FDA, nothing. They know nothing. My dad thought Tony Fauci was a good guy until a couple months ago. Unbelievable to me. I'd like to talk about that sometime.
I hope that's not a nuclear from Iran coming against us. That didn't sound good.
No, we're safe here in Japan. That's just a motorcycle outside. But no, thank you very much, Mary, for not just this talk, but each of the 3 or 4, or however many it's been now. That it's been very incredibly beneficial in helping us spread the word about this program, what we've been doing, what we found, and then allowing the patients to come out. And you actually have 4 of us patients who are sitting on the panel, and you have now for the first time both Kevin and I who are working on the logistics. So thank you very much for having us and just being supportive of us ever since that first right around Christmas. I remember.
Well, I mean, it's as I'm seeing all these patients, it's very frustrating because I don't have they're desperate for help and you don't really have much to offer them. So I'm very grateful to y'all for embarking upon this, because I'm sure it took courage, as Kevin was saying, like when you're first getting started and you don't know if it's going to work, and you're flying people out to Japan, and thank you to the patients who have, taken the leap of faith to do that and spent so much money,
Yes, absolutely.
and with no help from our government.
That's testament, though, to how severely
Right.
incapacitated these patients are, right? That they would take that leap in this instance. And I've got to say thank you to them. Thank you, Arthur and Ken, for
Thank
turning
you
up.
for saving my life.
Yeah, thank you for saving our lives, Kevin and Charles.
That's Dr. Cato and his team. I just look at glass slides. That's it.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, y'all. It was good to talk to all of y'all. Best wishes, and we'll talk to you soon, Mary. I'll talk to you very soon. Bye, Lindsay.
All right. Bye, y'all. Thank you.
Arthur,
Okay.
y'all be good. Catch y'all later.